right, hello. How are you guys? It is Doug Diamond here. It is another Diamond Report Live. I think I forgot to announce the name of the show last week, but you're here for another Diamond Report Live. We're going to roll up our sleeves and take a look at the news. We got tons of stuff to look at tonight. Hope you guys are doing well and had a really great Thanksgiving. I know we did here. It is 10:13 p.m. Central Time on November 26th, 2023. This year is just about over. It's pretty amazing. Anyway, yeah, I hope you guys had a really great holiday with your families. And let's move on. We have stuff to talk about. So let's just get right into it. Hope you enjoyed those first couple videos. I thought they went pretty well together, talking about technology, and some of those things that David Icke mentioned in that second video were pretty mind-blowing. I had no idea. And that's, basically old technology at this point from what he's identifying and what he talked about there. Pretty amazing stuff. All right, so let's take a look at HalTurnerRadioshow.com and just look at the headlines here. I don't have any particular articles pulled up from his site, but we'll just take a look at the main newest headlines here. USS Dwight D. Eisenhower aircraft carrier and its strike group have transited the Strait of Hormuz and entered the Persian Gulf. It says USS Dwight D. Eisenhower aircraft carrier shown above in a file photo and its strike group have transited the Strait of Hormuz and entered the Persian Gulf. All those vessels are now completely within range of all Iranian missile systems. So what do you think will happen, if anything? Hard to say. Manhattan Bridge occupied by Palestinian supporters. Thousands of pro-Palestinian protesters are occupying the Manhattan Bridge, bringing traffic to a halt and forcing shutdown in NYC. So that's pretty interesting. I guess that was earlier today, stated today. American force makes landing in Yemen. American troops are operating in Yemen. So, as if we don't have enough problems already, right? Let's see. We got some banking headlines here, and he's really on to the whole banking thing and talked about some of the most recent banking collapse-related issues on his radio show this last week. So I thought that was pretty interesting. One of them had to do with the UBS bank. Let's see if I can find that here. UBS bank branch in Basel, Switzerland, denying withdrawals and having liquidity challenges. That's something that he talked about in his radio broadcasts earlier in the week. Second and third Israeli-owned cargo ships grabbed by Yemen in the Red Sea. So it just keeps going on and on. And a meteorite hits a car in France. Pretty weird. Very small meteorite. So, trying to see what else here. We have the Derek Chauvin story. You guys may have heard about this. He was reportedly stabbed. Now this says /killed in federal prison. I don't know if that's the case or not. That's just what Hal's reporting. Police officer convicted of murdering George Floyd was stabbed by another prisoner and seriously injured on Friday at a federal prison in Arizona. Let's click into the article and see what it says. This is the only place I've seen where it's claiming that he was killed. So let's take a look a little closer here. Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer convicted of murdering George Floyd, was stabbed by another prisoner and seriously injured Friday at a federal prison in Arizona. Around 9 p.m. Friday night, word came out claiming that Chauvin died. The attack happened at the Federal Correctional Institution in Tucson, a medium-security prison that has been plagued by security lapses and staffing shortages. The person was not authorized to publicly discuss details of the attack and spoke to the AP on condition of anonymity. Bureau of Prisons confirmed that an incarcerated person was assaulted at FCI Tucson at around 12:30 p.m. local time Friday. In a statement, the agency said responding employees contained the incident and performed, quote, life-saving measures. Interesting. Before the inmate, who it did not name, was taken to a hospital for further treatment and evaluation. No employees were injured and FBI was notified. Federal Bureau of Prisons said visiting at the facility, which has about 380 inmates, has been suspended. So again, no new update. But this is dated yesterday, so we will see. I'm sure if that's really true. we'll probably hear about that from other outlets pretty soon. So let's see. I guess that was all pretty much here on Hal's website. You guys are welcome to take a look at this. We did talk about this last week as far as the peace plan, and hostilities were halted in Gaza about 2 a.m. Eastern U.S. time on Friday. Hostilities between Israel and Hamas officially paused. In short order, thousands of Palestinians who previously evacuated to the south began heading north toward their home, which who knows if they're still there. But it says with the first minutes of the ceasefire, Palestinian families began returning to their homes that they evacuated, Gaza. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see if this is the peace and safety part that I mentioned last week in the broadcast. I don't know. So, apparently they're still in the midst of the peace and hostage trade. So, we'll see what happens on that one. Need to know.news. Dublin, riots triggered after suspected migrant stabs children and a woman. Police said a 5-year-old girl and a woman in her 30s and a man in his 50s sustained serious injuries during a stabbing spree on Thursday. The girl is in critical condition. Bystanders disarmed a man who's believed to be an Algerian immigrant and pinned him to the ground while waiting for police. The stabbing spurred a large protest in Dublin. Rioters were seen setting a Holiday Inn that houses migrant asylum seekers on fire. The group of rioters attacked police vehicles and set fires. More than 400 Irish police officers were involved in the height of the response. Some opportunists looted stores. Authorities blamed the far right for the action while ignoring public discontent over the country's mass migration policy. The Garda, the police commissioner, Drew Harris, said a complete lunatic faction driven by far-right ideology was behind the riot. Leo Varadkar, Ireland's prime minister, condemned the more than 500 people who took part in the rioting and said those involved brought shame on Dublin, brought shame on Ireland, and brought shame on their families and themselves. 32 people have been charged in the riot. The Irish are beginning to realize the dire consequences of the left's open border policy. Sounds a little bit like what's happening here. A critic wrote that the riots prove that the Irish people are not happy with mass immigration. Irish locals are taken to the streets to protest the country's immigration policies after several children were stabbed by an alleged migrant on Thursday. So it goes on and on and on. When will it ever end? They definitely have the replacement migration happening in all of the Western countries, do they not? In all of the predominantly white countries, we get replaced. We get killed first and then replaced. So yeah, that's on needtoknow.news. So is this one, New Jersey joins 10 other states set to phase out sales of new gas-powered cars by 2035. Never mind that no one wants electric cars. And they're going to force it on us anyway. It's like I've heard so many times, it is literally a bridge to nowhere. They're going to try and put people in electric vehicles, obviously, so they can turn them off at will. It'll all be based on your social credit score as if you can go anywhere. So if you don't have enough social credits, you won't be able to start your car. See how that works? New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy, who also made it into his office by brazen election fraud, a lot like the current person who calls himself president in our country. Phil Murphy recently announced that the state will phase out the sale of new cars that run on gas by 2035, joining California and New York. The Advanced Clean Cars 2 rule, set to take effect January 1st, will make the Garden State the 11th state on such a trajectory, joining Vermont, Washington, Oregon, Massachusetts, Virginia, and Rhode Island, Maryland, and Connecticut. The rule, which California originated in 2022, will have no effect on use or ownership of existing gas-powered vehicles or used car sales. Yet. Have no effect yet. That's probably what they mean there. Anyway, yeah, needtoknow.news is where this one is. Feel free to have a look. I'm not sure if any folks out there listening are in New Jersey. If you are, let me know. But yeah, this is coming soon to your state. And then, of course, around the world. That's the goal. New IMF handbook confirms the CBDCs will track users and can control users' spending, which is why they want people in electric cars. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, a major financial agency of the United Nations, published a 5-part handbook on central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, for policymakers, saying that while preserving the privacy of taxpayers is important, yeah, right, governments need to know who's transacting using CBDC for anti-money laundering purposes to protect against terrorism, i.e. they don't control every dollar that's out there. The UN agency fretted that if CBDC users feel they lack privacy, they may not use the currency as much as recommended privacy-preserving technologies, while at the same time making sure to allow transparency to regulators. Last year, by Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell said, digital currencies will be identity verified, so CBDCs would not be anonymous. Again, going back to the whole mark of the beast system. This is how it runs, this type of system, if not this very system. The IMF also wrote that CBDCs could be programmable, which means that authorities could restrict where or when it could be spent. The handbook also recommends user identification and transaction tracking, which can either be programmed into the currency or made a precondition for the user being granted the digital wallet which will receive the funds. Brazil has programmed a feature into its digital currency, Drex, which allows the Central Bank of Brazil to freeze and even withdraw the funds after they are transferred to a taxpayer. So there you go. They're just letting you borrow it briefly and then will take it away at a moment's notice. And then, of course, I've also heard that things like paychecks and money that you receive from different transactions will be expirable. They will expire if you don't use them. So this is the hell they are leading us into. And look for this system to be in place at some point, I would say within the next couple of years at most. We'll see. But obviously, according to the Bible, there is a centralized system of some sort that the mark of the beast is based on. So, and that technology is already being injected. So it's pretty amazing how things are unfolding. Connecticut, so we were just talking about New Jersey a minute ago. Connecticut City rejects 5G, citing evidence of health risks. So that's kind of good news, I think. Connecticut City has stepped up here, apparently. The Board of Representatives of Stamford, Connecticut, voted to reject a model agreement that would have allowed AT&T and Verizon to install 5G equipment on city-owned utility poles, risking a lawsuit from the vendors. A 2018 ruling by the FCC blocks states and municipalities from taking actions that would impede or delay the rollout of 5G technology. Challenges to the 2018 FCC ruling are still being worked out in the court system. Opponents of the 5G rollout wrote that wireless radiation is dangerous because it can cause cellular stress and DNA damage, leading to disease. Very true. FCC guidelines are a complete failure for protecting children. Other countries have more stringent wireless radiation standards. Pollinators may be impacted by 5G as well. So it's good news. It's a step in the right direction, but obviously the people in charge haven't quite been paid off enough yet. So we will see how that unfolds. But yeah, Stamford, Connecticut. Pretty interesting, though. At least the truth is getting out there. It's becoming more and more obvious to people that cellular radiation, cell phone radiation, EMF, Wi-Fi, all that stuff is really bad news for your health. Something that we've been talking about for years and years on Lost Arts Radio. If you happen to follow that show, that's a show that I produce and engineer. So yeah, pretty interesting, though. That's on needtoknow.news as well. From Revolver, now these are just links that I found off of the revolver.news website, which is a good news-based website. This is from LifeSite, actually, not LifeSite News. Is the White House building a building Great Reset green utopias to house a massive influx of immigrants. The Great Reset will result in two tiers or people: the technocratic elite, who have all the power and rule over all assets, meaning us, and the rest of humanity, who have no power, no assets, and no say in anything. Says the story at a glance, White House released plans to convert massive commercial properties into affordable zero-emission housing. White House announcement is peppered with Great Reset buzzwords like clean energy economy and zero-emissions housing, and echoes the agendas being pushed by globalists like Klaus Schwab. The much-needed housing will provide more room to house the influx of illegal immigrants being driven into the U.S. by drug cartels. Cartels are lying to migrants, telling them that anyone waiting for an immigration appointment can get asylum if they turn themselves in. This tactic ties up border agents so cartel can carry out drug smuggling, kidnapping, and human trafficking in less populated areas. And boy, are they having a free-for-all. So, but yeah, the White House, the people in charge at the White House, I think you know who I'm talking about, are directly involved in all this garbage, paving the way for a surveilled green utopia. The White House announcement is peppered with Great Reset buzzwords, and talks about more on the Green New Deal, the Green Agenda, Build Back Better, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the transhumanist movement, and the Great Reset, officially introduced by WEF founder Klaus Schwab and then Prince Charles in June 2020. Prince Charles. And pretty interesting. Yeah, Prince Charles, now King Charles, is above all of this stuff. And we've talked at length about who Prince Charles, now King Charles, will most likely be sometime within the next year or so. That is the biblical Antichrist. And we'll talk more about that in just a little bit. Agenda 21, which is the agenda for the 21st century, is the inventory and control plan for all land, water, minerals, plants, animals, construction, means of production, food, energy, information, education, and all human beings in the world. The European Green Deal is more of the same, introduced by the European Commission in December of 2019 to, in part, replace fossil fuels with cleaner energy sources. So they think they're just going to control absolutely everyone and everything. So this is on lifesitenews.com. If you want to take a look at this, and we'll link to this one and all of the other articles that I mentioned. We'll link to that in the Substack post that I do tomorrow. You'll see that in the black box in the upper right corner, diamonddisc.substack.com. So make sure you're on that list so you can get the links that I send out to all these different articles and videos that I play and stuff, because you'll probably want that. More on that in just a bit. Roger Stone just asked the $1 million question about the Biden boys' subpoenas. The Biden boys. I think you know who those two guys are. Says, have you heard the latest? The Biden boys are set to fiercely fight their congressional subpoenas. Remember what happened to the Trump officials who took a similar stand during the January 6th sideshow? Who can forget when Peter Navarro refused to testify before the circus known as the January 6th committee? That poor guy was convicted of contempt of Congress so quickly it made his head spin. And the fate awaited Stephen Bannon when he refused to testify before the sham January 6th committee. And then here's more information about those two folks. Oh, that's cute. Merrick Garland cares about justice now, eh? Curious, does Mr. Garland still hold the same views on so-called equal justice that he once did, now that the Biden boys are using every trick in the book to evade their subpoenas? Well, amidst all of this turmoil, Roger Stone is asking the $1 million question about these latest Biden boy subpoenas. And this is his tweet. When Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro declined to testify to the January 6th committee when subpoenaed, they were both quickly prosecuted. Now the Bidens seek to avoid their subpoenaed testimony to the Oversight Committee. Will the DOJ prosecute them? What do you think? I think they get a free pass and hope no one's paying attention. Because what are we going to do? Vote them out? Right. So technocracy.news, the three top articles here. We've got the paragraphs. We can read a little bit about it, but if you're interested in these articles, you can go to technocracy.news, and the only way to see them now, I guess, is behind a subscription paywall, unfortunately, but that's the way it is. The emptiness of the transhumanist ideal. Transhumanism and technocracy present a mechanistic worldview that is devoid of humanness. Life is nothing other than meaningless arrangement of atoms and chemical reactions. C.S. Lewis concluded in The Abolition of Man that the more man looks into nature with an eye to master and control it, the more man himself is taken captive by nature, resulting in his own demise. So that's kind of interesting. Words from C.S. Lewis. On technocracy, why are we sleepwalking into tyranny? As reality slips away, you can see the simulacrum forming and sucking millions of people into the vortex. The progress of a simulacrum is that it starts with a reflection of a profound reality, then masks it, and then unties it from reality entirely. Thus, a simulacrum is anti-reality. When people enter into this twilight zone state, you can lie to them with impunity and they won't know the difference. Are we not seeing all of that play out right now? It's biblical if you ask me. The Fed's Data Analytical Services, DAS, gave trillions of phone records to law enforcement. You read it correctly. Over a trillion, with a T, phone records every year, year after year. You might have already figured that AT&T is at the bottom of it. AT&T has been busted by Congress multiple times over the years for secretly spying on Americans, but they turn around and amp up their efforts with impunity. Meanwhile, the feds are carefully creating a police state right under our noses. Clearly, the federal government is now exposed as the enemy of all Americans. I never thought I would say that, but that is so true. So true. Anyway, these are all articles that you can find on technocracy.news. So that's where those are. And speaking of that last one I just read, millions of Americans having their phone calls listened to by a secret surveillance program. This is on thelibertybeacon.com. Americans having their phone calls listened to by a secret surveillance. Says this surveillance affecting those who are part of AT&T's phone network raises serious concerns about privacy rights and the 14th Amendment. Well, that's just part of an old, outdated thing called the Constitution, and we just don't care about that anymore. So says the feds that run everything. Millions of Americans who use AT&T phone networks are having their phone calls monitored and surveilled in a surveillance program called Data Analytical Services, which has had coordination with federal and local law enforcement agencies. According to a document obtained by Wired, DAS has been secretly collecting and analyzing over 1 trillion domestic phone records within the U.S. each year. 1 trillion. That's just an amazing... I can't even fathom how many that is. So anyway, more here on thelibertybeacon.com. That's where that is. And 2 more articles from this site. Voters want age term limits on elected officials. Age term limits. I hadn't heard of that, but it does make sense. At a time when divisive American political rhetoric drives the headlines and sentiment on elected officials and the direction of the country is bleak, it's hard to find solutions in which Democrats, Independents, and Republicans agree. However, in looking at, quote, age limits or, quote, term limits for federally elected officials, it's clear that those are 2 issues that gain vast amounts of support from across the political spectrum. But it won't matter because we have no recourse through elections anymore, so it doesn't really matter. They can take the polls all they want, is what I'm saying. In the most recent Bullfinch Group national survey of 1,200 American adults, respondents were asked if they support or oppose term limits for members of Congress and the U.S. Senate, which would limit the amount of terms an elected official is allowed to serve. While some may be surprised to see that more than 8 in 10 adults support term limits, 81%, what may be more striking is the near identical support shown by self-identified Democrats, Independents, and Republicans. Whatever you personally feel about term limits, one only has to look at the abysmal job approval of Congress, along with a possible, if only partial, solution that garners 80% support among Democrats, 81% among independents, and 82% among Republicans, as at least the beginnings of a workable issue that we Americans can get behind. But again, it doesn't matter. Our elections are captured. So let's skip down just a little further here. And says, furthermore, of the 38 different questions asked to respondents in the survey, only one saw sentiment among Republicans and Democrats more aligned: the question of age limits. When respondents were asked if they support or oppose age limits for members of Congress, the U.S. Senate, and the President of the United States, which would serve as an upper age limit for federally elected officials, over 3/4 of adults supported age limits, 78%, with support among self-identified Democrats and Republicans at 80% and 81%. Pretty amazing. So yes, age limits. I hadn't heard of that, and I wasn't sure if you guys had, but rather interesting, given who's in the office right now. The occupier-in-chief. And one more from the Liberty Beacon. Speaking of which, Biden booed and heckled on the streets of Nantucket by people protesting the war in Gaza. So yeah. Protesters were kept about 6 blocks from Biden on Saturday. Biden's motorcade even took a different route into town, one that avoided driving past a group of protesters gathered on the side of the road, because if he didn't see it, it didn't happen. Biden family's Nantucket stay has been repeatedly interrupted by protesters. In Nantucket, that's pretty amazing. I thought that was where all their supporters were. Biden was booed and heckled on the streets of Nantucket. So yeah, I guess that's good news. But of course, if he avoided it, then it didn't happen, according to the press, at least. Group of about 40 people calling for an end to the fighting in Palestine were kept down one end of the main street in downtown Nantucket, about 6 blocks from where Biden was shopping with wife Jill and son Hunter. Wow. There he is enjoying his whatever. So, yep, again, I guess they just avoid it, and therefore it's not real. It doesn't happen. It doesn't affect us. Pretty amazing, the gaslighting from this administration. That is the one thing they're good at. They are professional gaslighters, and they're really good at that. All right, let's jump over to Gateway Pundit. Some interesting headlines here. I've got quite a few articles pulled up, which we'll go into, but I usually refresh the page here just to see what the latest, greatest news is. Retailers lost over $4.4 billion in Democrat-run New York due to organized shoplifting. Organized shoplifting has impacted New York retailers greatly. The Democrat-run state and its soft-on-crime policies have resulted in huge losses for businesses, which is why so many of them are leaving. Democrat Governor Hochul, which I think if maybe you guys in chat can remind me, has Hochul even been elected? Or didn't she just take over for the last guy? Democrat Governor Hochul recently vetoed a bill that would have facilitated the issue of dealing with organized theft rings. She vetoed it. A spokesperson for the governor said that the $35 million cost for the proposal was not in the budget. That's because all their money and everything else has been stolen. Over 2,500 police officers have left the NYPD this year. So we were just talking about the police. We were just talking about the not just the police, but also Hochul and what's going on in New York. A jaw-dropping 2,516 police officers have left the job in 2023. Yes, but that's not the end. That is not where it ends. Check this out. The Post reports that drastic cuts, this paragraph right here, will reduce the department to just 29,000 cops by the end of fiscal year 2025, the lowest level since the mid-90s, and come amid a slew of citywide belt-tightening. Except for the illegal immigrants that are coming in, they still give them everything they want. The mayor has blamed the city's multi-billion-dollar migrant crisis. Yes, well, that's pretty handy, isn't it? But yeah, they're going to, they've lost 2,500 NYPD officers, and they're about to lose. They're going to drop down below 29,000 total. So they're going to lose several thousand more over the course of the next couple years at most. So yeah, very dangerous to live in New York. So if you're there, I would recommend leaving. Gavin Newsom tries to gaslight the public and suggests inflation is a conservative lie. This man looks like Dracula. Every time I see him, he looks like Dracula. Does he have pointed teeth here or something? He should. California Governor Newsom wants the public to believe that inflation isn't that bad, and that the only reason people believe that it is because of conservatives. Yeah, they have no idea how to manage their own budgets, apparently. Millions of Americans are struggling to afford basic items like food and gas, but the narrative is more important to Newsom. He should know by now that you can't lie to people about how much money they have or about how much things cost. I don't think he's, you can call it lying, but it's gaslighting. So he probably actually believes it himself. To make Republicans look bad, Democrats have to lie. While to make the Democrats look bad, all Republicans have to do is point out the obvious and the truth. Gavin Newsom is suggesting that inflation fueled by President Joe's leftist policies is a lie pushed by conservatives. Says this week, Newsom claimed inflation plaguing Americans this holiday season is propaganda and nothing more than a fabrication being pushed by Republicans. So there you go. It's not really happening to you. You're just imagining that you can't afford your next meal. You're just imagining that you can't afford to fill up your gas tank. It's a Republican piece of propaganda. It's not that bad, according to Gavin Newsom. Do as I say, not as I do. Hypocrite Kamala faces backlash on social media for using gas stove on Thanksgiving while pushing to ban gas stoves being used by Americans. But it's okay if she does it. Here it is. There's her gas stove. And she's got her kettle of water on it. In recent social media post meant to extend Thanksgiving greetings, Kamala and her husband Doug shared a holiday message that unexpectedly set the internet ablaze, not for its content, but for its context. With a simple caption, "From our family to yours, happy Thanksgiving," the message quickly backfired when sharp-eyed netizens spotted a gas stove in the background. So, once again, that goes into the category of it's okay if we do it, just not you. A couple more on Gateway Pundit. Here's a King Charles story. How lovely. Modernizing King Charles profiting from dead people's assets by using old feudal custom. The new Carolian era is not so new after all. King Charles III of England ascended to the throne, decided to make his long-awaited reign a turning point that'll modernize British monarchy and take it into the future. But in fact, Charles is now demonstrated to be misusing a medieval feudal custom to profit from assets of dead people. So much for modernizing. Well, it is the soon-to-be Antichrist we're talking about. The king is reportedly profiting from the deaths of thousands of people in the northwest of England. These deceased individuals had assets that were secretly being used to upgrade a commercial property empire managed by Charles' hereditary estate. The Duchy of Lancaster is a controversial land and property estate that generates huge profits for the modernizing king. So pretty interesting. Here's what the quote says from The Guardian. Financial assets known as bona vacantia, owned by people who died without a will or no next of kin, are collected by the Duchy. Over the last 10 years, it's collected more than £60 million in the funds. It has long claimed that after deducting costs, bona vacantia revenues are donated to charities. However, only a small percentage of these revenues is being given to charity. Internal Duchy documents seen by The Guardian reveals how funds are secretly being used to finance the renovation of properties that are owned by the king and rented out for profit. There you go. It's feudalism, pure and simple. And I would expect no less from the soon-to-be Antichrist. Anyway, thought you'd like to know. He's at it again, right? Biden's presidential motorcade forced to take alternative route to Mass at St. Mary's to avoid protesters, which I mentioned this earlier. This is just the same story, but expanded upon a little bit more on the Gateway Pundit. All right, links from the Daily Crow. This is what I've found I thought were worth bringing up. America needs to bomb Iran. This is according to the Jerusalem Post, of course. How do you deal with Iran when it intends to take out Israel with a nuclear bomb? There's only one way this can be prevented, a preemptive strike on Iran by America. So there you go. They're calling for a preemptive nuclear strike on Iran. That apparently will fix it. Man, oh man. Israel experienced a preemptive attack upon its nation. No, it did not. It experienced a stand-down attack on its nation, which was the worst massacre in its history by Iranian proxy Hamas, carried out with Iranian arms and funded by Iran. Yes, and Israel had nothing to do with it. They were clean and pure as the wind-driven snow. Yeah, right. It opened Pandora's box, forcing Israel to fight a war for its survival, knowing that without it, there would be many more attacks like October 7th or worse. The new 21st century wars are proxy wars, but they are also media wars. Israel cannot win a media war, according to the Jerusalem Post. I think they are sure trying, and they have the entire media in the United States on their side. Or at least they're owned by. So anyways, once again, Israel is the victim. And not that I'm on Hamas's side. I'm not. I'm not on either side. Except the side of the truth. Anyway, yeah, this is Jerusalem Post calling on America to bomb Iran. Will they follow their orders? They might. From Slay News, Canada is beginning to replace meat with insects for public consumption. Those words just don't go together, if you ask me. Insects for public consumption. According to a bunch of crazy people, maybe. The far left Canadian government has been caught pumping millions of dollars in taxpayer money into plans to eliminate traditional meat for public consumption and replace it with insect-based, quote, foods. Canada's WEF controlled leadership has funneled $10 million into building the largest cricket processing plant in the world. According to documents obtained by the Counter Signal, the new insect plant will soon start operating out of London, Ontario. And my guess is this food plant, even though it's not real food, it's just, well, it's food for fish, I guess, or birds. This food plant probably won't get exploded like so many of the food processing plants in this country are. I'm sure it'll be totally fine. It'll be a very safe place to work, most likely. Because it'll probably be protected by armed guards. Anyways, just wanted to let you guys know. I do have some Canadian folks out there listening, so hello and welcome, and get ready. They're trying to bring the worm burgers down on you guys. Israel admits it killed some of its own at the Supernova Music Festival. It was called Supernova. This just says Nova. An Israeli police investigation into the Hamas attack on the Nova Music Festival near the Gaza border on October 7 revealed that an Israeli attack helicopter killed some of the attendees. Did I not report this like 3 weeks ago? According to a police source, an investigation into the incident showed that an Israeli combat helicopter that arrived at the scene from the Ramat David base fired at Hamas fighters and other Palestinians who crossed through the border fence from Gaza into Israel, but also fired on some of the Israelis attending the music festival. According to the police, 364 people in total were killed there, and you could tell. We looked at the some of the footage, the drone footage there of the cars that were just completely melted and mangled, that the Hamas attackers could never have done from their flying go-karts. No, it needed missiles from a helicopter gunship. And that's indeed what happened. Which, you guys heard that here already several weeks ago. Israeli military and rescue services previously claimed that 260 Israelis were killed at the festival, all by Hamas and Palestinians in a deliberate massacre, but this is the first acknowledgement that Israeli forces killed some of their own. Now, did they mean to do it? I have no idea. No idea. But the result is, obviously, they killed a bunch of their own people. Probably hundreds of their own people. So anyway, there's more info here on Zero Hedge on this article. The expose. Dr. William Deagle. Now, if you guys are geoengineering activists, you may have heard this name before, said chemtrails contain mycobacteria, viruses, pseudomonas bacteria, and human plasma. It says during a speech in 2006, which I've heard this before, but it's been a long time, Dr. William Deagle spoke about chemtrails. He said that chemtrails contained barium salts, mycobacteria, viruses, pseudomonas bacteria, and human plasma. Dr. Deagle said he was the doctor of the pilots from the U.S. Department of Defense's National Security Agency, NSA, and Fort Carson, who were flying the aircraft that were spraying the chemtrails. Also in the chemtrails are morgellons, he said. He explained that morgellons are silicon-based nanomachine life forms that do not originate on planet Earth. Well, I don't know exactly what that means, but nanotech certainly does. It says this is a silicon-based life form that is intelligent like bees or ants, and it fights back, he said. So, and it says that he continued, conversion of the atmosphere into a plasma for weather modification, geotectonic warfare, read earthquakes, scalar mind control technologies, the woodpecker, which has been discovered in the 70s, HARP, and the Tetra system in the United Kingdom, the Gwen towers in the United States, and the Iridium satellite system connected to the cell towers and smart highways are all based on not only on a signal to track you, but Nokia, which is one of the leading cell companies, has figured out a new way to cut down increasing the amount of signal by 3 to 5 times as many cell phones in the same area by beaming the signal directly to you. But it can also, besides the cell signal, they can have a bio-coded signal to your DNA to affect your physiology and insert thoughts into your mind. And they have this technology today. This is something that I've talked about before. This is basically describing something that I personally have experienced in some way, and that is what I would call voice-to-skull technology. We've talked about that at length in past broadcasts, so we won't go into that now, but that kind of sounds like what he's describing here. Bio-coded signal into your DNA and lets people insert thoughts into your mind. So anyway, this is a YouTube video, and feel free to check this out if you want. It's on the Expose or the Expose. I'm not sure which it is. So yeah, economic collapse blog. 106.4 million. That's a lot of people. 106.4 million U.S. adults do not have a job right now. Yes, but how many of them want a job? It says 19 months in a row, the Conference Board's index of leading economic indicators has now fallen for 19 months in a row. When something happens for 19 consecutive months, that is definitely a trend. The economy is clearly in big trouble, and conditions are getting worse with each passing day, but the mainstream media continues to insist that the economy is doing just great. Yes, it's called gaslighting. They tell us that inflation is low, but if it was still measured the way it was back in 1980, the official rate of inflation would be well into double-digit territory. And they tell us that the unemployment rate is low, but if honest numbers were being used, the official rate of unemployment would be about 25% right now. There are highly qualified people that can't even get an interview, even though they are sending out hundreds and hundreds of resumes. What are they doing wrong? Of course, the truth is that they aren't doing anything wrong. The employment market is far tighter than we are being led to believe, and that isn't going to change anytime soon. When a working age American is not working, the government puts that individual into one of two categories. Right now, there are only 6.5 million U.S. adults that are officially considered to be unemployed, but another 99.9 million U.S. adults are considered to be not in the labor force, quote unquote, so they don't count as being unemployed. When you add those two numbers together, you get a grand total of 106.4 million U.S. adults that don't have a job right now. So that is pretty incredible. That's some huge numbers right there, way more than I thought. But yeah, they're playing games with it, and they're categorizing the unemployed as only being 6.5 million. So if you ask the Biden administration, the gaslighting administration, what the official unemployment numbers is, they'll say 6.5 million, but it's really 106.4 million. Anyway, that is on Economic Collapse blog. From The Hill, Supreme Court declines to review Derek Chauvin's conviction in George Floyd's murder. We talked about this last week as far as his attorneys taking up a new appeal. So the Supreme Court on Monday declined to review former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin's conviction for the murder of George Floyd, whose killing reignited the Black Lives Matter movement and sparked worldwide protests in the summer of 2020, and it was all based on a lie. I'll just insert that little bit there. Chauvin had asked the justices to hear his case after Minnesota's top court declined to do so. The justices declined to take up Chauvin's appeal, letting his conviction stand. Yes, and now he's fighting for his life, or he's dead, because he was stabbed. So anyway, there's more here on The Hill. Scientists 3D print a complex robotic hand with bones, tendons, and ligaments, and Sharpies and water bottles. We don't think twice about using our hands throughout the day for tasks that still thwart sophisticated robots, pouring coffee without spilling when half awake, folding laundry without ripping delicate fabrics. The complexity of our hands is partly to thank they are wonders of biological engineering. Hard skeleton keeps their shape and integrity and lets fingers bear weight. Soft tissues such as muscles and ligaments give them dexterity. Thanks to evolution, all these biomaterials self-assemble. No, it's thanks to God's design, not evolution. Recreating them artificially is another matter. So this is talking about 3D printing. Scientists have tried to use additive manufacturing, better known as 3D printing, to recreate complex structures from hands to hearts, but the technology stumbles when integrating multiple materials into one printing process. But now, guess what? They have found a way. Of course. The team equipped a 3D inkjet printer when it was done printing your next steak, I guess, which is based on the same technology in normal office printers with machine vision, allowing it to rapidly adapt to different materials. The approach, called vision-controlled jetting, continuously gathers information about a structure's shape during printing to fine-tune how it prints the next layer, regardless of the type of material. In a test, the team 3D printed a synthetic hand in one go, complete with skeleton, ligaments, and tendons. The hand can grasp different objects when it, quote, feels pressure at its fingertips. They also 3D printed a structure like a human heart, complete with chambers, one-way valves, and the ability to pump fluid at a rate roughly 40% of an adult human's heart. So there you go. That's what they're working on. The problem with 3D inkjet printing, it melts in the rain. That's what I've noticed. But I don't know if these hands do or not. So this is on singularityhub.com. That's where that is. Yes, thanks to evolution, they say. Speaking of evolution, until 1970, the majority of the people were fit as a fiddle. No keto, vegan, or paleo diets. No home aerobics or gym memberships. No fancy fitness tech or wellness influencers. They also weren't drinking protein shakes or counting calories. So what went wrong? can see the 1973 family versus the 2023 family. 2023, not only the year, but probably the tonnage as well. Wow. So anyway, this is what this article is saying. Number one is medication. In the 1970s, the average American spent 10 times less on prescription drugs than now. Contrary to popular belief, people in Western countries are also compelled to take potentially lethal drugs. Instead of addressing root causes, end-of-pipe solutions are applied. You can see the spending on prescription drugs has risen rapidly from 1960 here until about 2015. So you can just see it's going straight up, and Big Pharma is so happy. They love that. Number two, the demonization of saturated fats. Since the 1960s, it's been claimed that saturated fats cause heart attacks, although we've been nourished by lard and butter for thousands of years. These good fats were replaced with inflammatory omega-6 fatty acids. Trust the science, they said. And there's a chart. Number three, dietary poisoning. Processed foods are abundant. Enough said on that one. Home cooked meal versus fast food restaurants. Number four, lack of exercise. Number five, vitamin D deficiency. Number six, lack of nutrients. Number seven, dangerous plastics. Number seven, dangerous plastics. Number eight, childhood sneeze. Yes, and I would say all sneeze. Not just childhood, but yes, all the above. Number nine, environmental toxins. And number 10, dangers in cosmetics, like aluminum in deodorants and so forth. And I guess it goes on from there. There's quite a few. I'll just read the rest. Number 11, oral contraceptives. Number 12, I am writing this thread because we are definitely moving in the wrong direction. Talking about the food pyramid. Number 13, but there are many things you can do about it. Talking about eating right. I don't think, here's number 14. There are many more strategies you can use to lead a healthy and fulfilled life without having to bow to the establishment. And then talking about his Substack article. So overall, pretty good article, I think. I think the picture definitely says 1,000 words here. Yeah, huge. I'm just looking at some of the comments in chat. Pretty massive. But yeah, very true, very true. I mean, if you can go back, if you have pictures from the 1960s, 1970s, and family pictures or whatever, just go back and look. Most people were thin. It's pretty amazing, but not now, not now. Okay, for all of you music fans out there, I have some bad news for you. I have some very sad news. If you're Hall & Oates fans, no, they're not dead. They're fine. But Daryl Hall is suing John Oates. If we are not living in the end times, I don't know what other evidence you want, but when Hall sues Oates, you know we are living in the end times. Here's the shocking reason Daryl Hall is suing John Oates. So this is happening in the town that I live in, so it sort of caught my attention. Plus, I like Hall & Oates. Music lovers were left stunned after learning Daryl Hall had filed a lawsuit against longtime collaborator John Oates in Nashville, in a Nashville court. The suit is currently sealed, sparking speculation as to what could have caused the fallout between the music icons. So yeah, it says apparently, well, it says a couple paragraphs down here, the insiders disclosed that Hall made a swift legal move on November 16th, petitioning the court for a restraining order against Oates, which was promptly granted by the judge. Says Oates performed a series of solo shows earlier this month, purportedly singing a number of his and Hall's joint hits. According to this, that's what the offense was. John Oates performed some of their songs. So I was talking about some of the pictures and some of their history. You guys know the songs. Kiss on My List, Rich Girl, Private Eyes. Some great tunes. The suit is currently sealed, it says, sparking speculation. So who knows exactly why, but Daryl Hall is And these are two guys that I have not met, by the way. I know I've never met either one of them, and I'm working the music business for you guys that don't know. Daryl Hall routinely performs their songs on his own, but apparently maybe it's not okay if John Oates does. One of the interesting things I found here about this particular story, it says that this is what Daryl Hall says. You think John Oates is my partner, ? He's my business partner. He's not my creative partner, he said in a dismissive tone. Ouch. Yow. John and I are brothers, but we are not creative brothers. We are business partners. We made records called Hall & Oates together, but we've always been very separate, and that's a really important thing for me. Come on, Daryl. Haven't you had enough fun? Wasn't the ride good enough for you? Yes, private eyes are watching you. That's exactly right, Susan. So, I don't know. It's a little sad when Daryl Hall is suing John Oates, I must say. So, yeah. So that's on New York Post and MSN for you guys who want to have a look. New poll shows that Hillary and Kamala are the favorite choices among Democrat voters to replace Biden if he doesn't run. So first they want Biden, and if he's not going to run, then they want Kamala and Hillary. There you go. A poll of Democrat voters by Harvard-Harris shows that, as we have surmised, most Democrats are masochists. Okay, so the poll wasn't about masochism technically, but it was about who Democrats would replace Biden with if given the chance, and two names rose above the rest. In the poll of 2,851 voters conducted November 15 and 16th, 24% said they would vote for Harris, while 13% said they would pick Clinton, as in Hillary Clinton. So that's pretty interesting. So you can make up your own jokes on that one, but I just thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah, it's nottobe.com. PETA, you guys know about PETA, posted about turkeys eating humans and got the greatest fact check of all time. So it says this is from the writer of this article. This is why I'm happy that Elon Musk bought Twitter. PETA, or PETA, however you say it, just got the most absolutely savage community note in the history of community notes for the anti-Thanksgiving Turkey Day tweet. It says, this is the tweet. You can see the picture here. PETA, we're lucky turkeys would never do this to us. You don't have to do it to them either. So there it is. The turkeys are all praying around the dinner table, which of course is a headless human being. So it's about as sick as it goes. Now here is the reader added context. Turkeys are not vegetarians. Turkeys eat mice, lizards, frogs, and just about anything they can fit in their mouth. If turkeys were larger or had the technological means to farm and eat humans, their current diet reveals they likely would. So that was the reader context added. So there you go. Oh boy. There's Kramer. Their bird brains would totally eat people if they could. And there they are with guns. So anyway, yeah, nottobe.com. Lots of fun stuff on here, including eating humans for Thanksgiving meals if you're turkeys. Very weird. Former Minneapolis officer convicted in murder of George Floyd has been stabbed to death by another inmate and was seriously injured. Yeah, so we don't know. I don't know if that's where it ends or not. That's where this article is ending. And you guys can look this up if you want to. It's on nottobe.com as well. Got a few articles pulled up on InfoWars. Watch group of 1,000 illegals pour into Arizona. Where are these people going? Numerous countries other than Mexico are crossing. Retired ICE official asks. Tucson sector averaging more than 2,000 apprehensions daily, along with known and unknown gotaways. Very large group of approximately 1,000 illegal aliens crossed into Arizona and turned themselves in to Border Patrol over the weekend. A steady stream of illegal migrants began pouring across the southern border into Oregon Pipe National Monument near Lukeville on Saturday, with the line reportedly stretching more than a quarter of a mile long, and many more kept coming. So, there it is. Got more video. Nightfall, and they kept coming. So, yeah, Arizona. So, not that you guys don't already know this, but you got to get the word out. I mean, the border has officially collapsed. It is gone. Germany today, destroying itself faster than Hitler did, according to Hungary's top MP. Speaker Laszlo Kover fired a broadside at Berlin and the UN and even launched a personal attack on the U.S. ambassador. Germany is destroying itself faster than under Adolf Hitler's rule, while the UN is nothing but a front company for propaganda. Hungarian parliamentary speaker Laszlo Kover has said, "The UN is a front company for propaganda." Yeah, well, so is the American empire. Look at who's running it. Senior MP, well known for repeatedly making various controversial statements, produced a flurry of inflammatory remarks on Thursday while he spoke at a sovereignty-protected forum held in the Hungarian town Jezapati. The speaker launched a bitter attack on Germany, comparing its current leadership to that of the Hitler era. So, yeah. So, he's not wrong. The fall of Minneapolis. George Floyd color revolution exposed. Learn how the left exploited Floyd's death to stoke racial and cultural division in America. The fall of Minneapolis is a film, apparently. Says it's a crowd-funded documentary by Alpha News that exposes how the left used the death of George Floyd to launch a color revolution in the United States. Yeah, and around the world. They've used that around the world to foment political correctness everywhere. Anyway, here is a video clip from George Floyd's criminal history to questionable witness testimony and the media's manipulation in between. Get the facts and watch the lies fall apart, the documentary's website states. So yes, the fall of Minneapolis. So, might be something you would be interested in watching. I think I'm going to try and watch it. All right. And then vaccineimpact.com, some of the latest headlines. The FDA has not banned trans fats. Traditional saturated fats like coconut oil continue to shine for Alzheimer's disease, but are condemned by the U.S. dietary advice. Yeah, because they know it works. National Day of Thanksgiving, ? Remembering those who had loved ones murdered by the U.S. government. Well, that's pretty much all of us at this point. And if we haven't had, we are about to have. Iran calls for an emergency BRICS meeting over Gaza. Putin and Xi to attend. And then the rest of these articles are ones we mentioned last week. So yeah, vaccineimpact.com on those. GeoWatch, okay, this week's Geoengineering Watch Global Alert News. Holiday weather made to order. World's largest tropical wetland becomes an inferno with 2,387 fires in the first half of November alone. The global burning continues unabated. Ozone hole largest on record over the past 3 years. Exactly as Geoengineering Watch has stated on the record over and over, while the climate science community has formally denied this rapidly worsening existential threat. If or when a functional collapse of the ozone layer occurs, terrestrial life on Earth will end. Record heat waves and devastating drought, followed by a flash flooding and flash cooldowns, all is being further fueled by climate intervention operations. Has misused technology already determined the fate of the human race? So yeah, holiday weather made to order. So there you go. I noticed it did around here. It kind of got cold on cue right when Thanksgiving rolled around, because we'd had unseasonably warm weather. We'd had 80-degree days and stuff in November, and then all of a sudden now it's cooled off. Just in time for the holidays, right? So yeah, and this kind of like we've done multiple times lately, the broadcast of Global Alert News this week, the YouTube version is actually the abbreviated, censored version. So if you listen to that one, just know you didn't get the whole show. So find Dane Wigington and geoengineeringwatch.org over on Rumble and BitChute if you want to hear the entire broadcast, because it's there. And it's got an extra, 20 minutes or something, quite a bit that we added to the show. So that it's there on the GeoWatch channels on BitChute and Rumble. So just do a search for those, and you'll be able to find those pretty easily. So yeah, and then I think, let's see here. Here's the Royals channel. I wanted to, we're talking about King Charles being the biblical Antichrist, soon to be biblical Antichrist within the next, probably a couple years or less. I just want to keep an eye on what he's doing. And this YouTube channel that I found is almost a play-by-play of what he's doing, which I would say good and bad, but there's no good. It's only bad. So feel free to look at this if you guys want to. It looks like, ridiculous sort of paparazzi type stuff, but actually there are some decent videos on here if you're looking for videos about what the king's up to. So something to keep an eye on. Argentina's new president thinking about converting to Judaism. According to Israel 365 News, Argentina's newly elected president, Javier Milei, won a resounding victory on Sunday on promises to save the country's crumbling economy, but Jewish issues, too, are close to his heart. Isn't that nice? I'm thinking about converting to Judaism, and I aspire to become the first Jewish president in Argentine history. So that's lovely. So he will be a big supporter of everything Israel, and Israel can do no wrong. So, because if you don't side with Israel, you are obviously anti-Semitic. So anyway, that's on Israel 365 News. And I think we have reached the end of the articles that I have pulled up. But yeah, you guys should join the band group. Some of you guys may already be on band, www.band.us. Let's take a look at that. I'm already talking about it, so we might as well. Band.us/@ the Diamond Report is how you get there. But there's also a link. If you're on the Substack, there's a link in pretty much all of the most recent Substack articles and posts that I've done. You can get there pretty easily. You can actually search it out as well. This group is findable on band.us. So if you go to band.us and just do a search for the Diamond Report, you should be able to find it. You can put my name in there. But the easiest way is to click from a link. So if you go to the Substack page, go to diamonddisc.substack.com. So here's what you do. You go to diamonddisc.substack.com and just click on no thanks right here, or you can put your email address in and subscribe. It's up to you. I'm going to click no thanks. And this most recent post, you can go to any of them, but the most recent one is the center post here, just talking about the live stream tonight. Band group info below. And if you scroll down just a little bit here, you'll see this information. Looking for a community, join the new band group. It's free. And here's the link. You click it, or you can click on this picture, which is just a screenshot of a couple of posts from band. Or you can click this link. So I tried to make it as easy as possible. So definitely go to diamonddisc.substack.com, and you can, within a couple clicks, you can be there, or you can search it out on band.us and find the group that way. So yes, you're free to join, and note that you can do your own postings there. Within Band, you can shut things off, like the ability to let people post and have their own say and their own conversations and stuff. I've learned a lot about it over the years, and I really like it. They don't censor anything, and it's really good for free speech. So if you're interested in helping to build the community here, the Diamond Report community, feel free to join. And Miss Emily in the chat here is one of my moderators, as is Miss Summer. I don't know if Summer's here, but we've got two moderators here, and they're helping me organize things a little bit in Band. And yeah, Emily's saying Band is pretty awesome. Yeah, it's pretty easy to use, and you can go on there and chat one-to-one with people. It's a lot like Facebook was in the early days as far as the features and stuff before Facebook started censoring people. Summer's here. Hello. Yeah, well, Summer's here as well, so say hi to her in chat. She is helping and doing a bang-up job, as is Miss Emily. So yeah, so I'm lucky to have them helping, and yeah, so you guys can request to join the group. There's a simple click invitation type thing. You click on to join the group, and one of us will approve you guys. And as long as you're in there and not causing trouble, you can stay in there. If you're a troublemaker, we don't really want you in there. I'll be honest. But we're very forgiving. So feel free to join the group, and we'll go from there. So yeah, that is the Substack page. We talked about that. That's where you can find all of the links to the shows, all the different article links I talk about. This was last week's show. It was called After Peace and Safety, Sudden Destruction Comes. I made some reference to that early on in this show. And I don't know if that's what's going to happen or not. But if you go to the Substack post about it, again, we got the band link right here. You can click and join the group. This is all of these links right here will take you to last week's show, the final version of that show that got uploaded and published on those different platforms. These are the different items in the Diamond Disc store, what's the Diamond Report store. So shirts and hats and mugs and things like that. Thank you guys who have decided to help me out by buying some products. I really appreciate that. And here are the article links. So this is where all of the article links from last week's show are. You can see how many articles we covered, and including some videos and stuff. So anyway, that is how it works. Very easy to use as far as the Substack post. So yeah, the other things I wanted to mention, there's the store, which we have talked about before. I think I want to add a few more new products. We've got some new things that have come up that are print-on-demand type products. So I'm going to probably add a few more things to the store in the coming days. So hopefully, look for that maybe on the next show. And then this is the Diamond Report on Twitter. So you can follow me there if you happen to be on Twitter. And I do upload a censored version of this show on Twitter directly, so you can, if you want, watch a shortened, condensed and censored version of this show on Twitter and on YouTube. Those are the same exact show, but I do put them on those platforms as well. And then, of course, here is the YouTube version. So the shows that you see, I put this show back up on YouTube when I'm done live streaming. I'll at some point tomorrow or later in the week, whenever I have time. I will put the show back up here, and so this show right here that's saying is 2 hours long is actually, if you look at it, it's 2 hours and 7 minutes on YouTube and Twitter. But if you look at that same show from last week, it's 2 hours and 38 minutes. So I cut out over a half an hour of stuff that were too dangerous for YouTube and probably really for Twitter as well. So just trying to keep my channels for as long as possible. Not that I like self-censoring, but hey, it's what you got to do if you want to stay on those platforms and reach the most people, which is really one of my goals. So thank you guys for sharing the show, sharing links to the show and to the Substack and to the store and all that stuff. So thank you guys for helping. Commercial-free broadcast tonight. You'll notice there were no commercials. There were no sponsors. I'm not pushing, gold and silver or storable foods or water filters or vitamins or anything like that. I'm just not pushing that stuff on you guys. I figured you've heard it everywhere else, so you're not going to hear it here. So anyways, yeah, but the way you can support me is through Substack. There is a mechanism there to support what I'm doing if you want to. No pressure. And then also through the store, which we talked about already, which in the upper right corner, you'll see that black block up there that says shop.thediamond.report. That is where this stuff is, the shirts and so forth. And again, I'm probably going to add some new products in the coming days. So look for that. We've got quite a few things on here already. So anyway, yeah. And then you can find me also on Rumble, which if you go to the Diamond, www.thediamond.report, you actually end up on my Rumble channel. That's where it takes you. So that's where that is. And then BitChute, you can find me at Diamond Disc on BitChute, Brighteon, ClickView, and TikTok. So I did upload last week's show, that 2 hours and 7 minute censored show was 14 pieces. That took me a long time. It took me a long time to even get to it this last week. But yeah, it's all there, and you can see. It's really weird. I don't understand how this thing's working. It is a Chi-Coms. So the first 4 pieces of the 14 that made up the show last week, the first 4 pieces got over 200 views, and then it all dropped to 0 after that. You think that's a coincidence? Do you really think no one at all has seen episodes 5 through 14? Or not episodes, but parts 5 through 14 of last week's show? I don't know if I buy that. But, well, thank you, Susan. Support your favorite news broadcaster is my motto. Thank you. I certainly appreciate that. Assuming you're talking about me, I really do appreciate that very much. Don't mind the ads. You got to pay for this somehow. Yeah, I know. It's end up taking quite a bit of my time, obviously, to put these shows together. So thank you. The main thing you can do really for me is to share the show. If you enjoy what I'm doing here, and share the show with your friends and help get other people on board as far as watching either the live stream, taking part in chat, and or just sharing the show as an upload. That's totally fine. Susan says, if I buy one of those Diamond Disc Report t-shirts, will I look as good as the model? I'm sure there's a disclaimer somewhere. Well, I don't know. You might. Let's look at the models. Let's take a look. I don't know. You might. The only way to know is to actually buy one and try it on and then see what happens. But I don't know. God bless you and the family, especially Mom. Glad to see you all tonight. Pray for a healthy and safe, blessed week to everyone, Kelly says. Well, thank you. Yeah, Mom's doing pretty good. Thanks for the shout out there for her. And yeah, she has been released from the pokey, as they say. She's not actually in prison, but she was in a rehab facility getting better, and she's now out of there and back with us. So she's doing good. Yeah, little by little. It's a slow go for sure. But thank you guys for praying for her. I certainly appreciate it. Her name's Mary Lou, if you guys want to pray specifically for her. Very cool. And then I don't think I mentioned this last week. This is my my business, my music business. So if you don't want to support what I'm doing in any way, as far as buying anything, which is totally fine, or sharing the show, which is totally fine, or what else? Subscribing on Substack, which is totally fine. But you say you have somebody who is a friend who might need some help with music-related things, or building a website, or doing some sort of graphic design thing, or whatever. That's my 9-to-5 day gig. And it's not really 9 to 5. I'm just throwing that out there. So this is Diamond Digital Media, Diamond Disc Audio. So diamonddiscaudio.com. And I always link to this also on my various posts and things that I put out there. So yeah, 27 years in business. It's pretty amazing. I've been at it a long time. So, but yeah, I do all kinds of music-related things and build websites. Here's some of the different websites that I've built. And here's some testimonials and so forth. So, and you can even get to the Diamond Report from here by clicking right there. But that's just taking people over to my Rumble channel is where that's going, in the upper corner up there. So, yeah, thank you guys. Certainly appreciate it. Let's watch another video before we wrap it up for the night. We've got several other really cool ones. Let's see. How about this one? It's called The Anti-Human Agenda. I thought this was kind of interesting. This is also, again, David Icke. We're sort of on a David Icke jag a little bit tonight. We played one earlier from him, but I think he's pretty good. He has some really interesting stuff that he talks about. I don't agree with the New Agey aspect of those things that he talks about. You will see him mention something called consciousness, which I get it. I understand what consciousness is. I don't really relate to it from the standpoint of it being the be-all, end-all, because I personally believe that Jesus Christ paid the price for us, and it's up to us to accept that and to do our best to try and become as much like him as possible. But in the end, we can't be. He's the perfect one, not us. And yes, there is such thing as sin. And yes, we all fall short of the glory of God. And consciousness cannot overcome that kind of stuff, in my opinion. And I have people that I work with, good friends of mine, who believe that consciousness can basically overcome everything. I am not personally in that particular ballpark, but I think it's okay to agree to disagree on things like this. But you'll see David's going to mention that in this video, and I do think, though, that all the other stuff that he's talking about is really relevant. It's called The Anti-Human Agenda. So yeah, pretty cool. I thought that was kind of a neat little video. Again, I don't necessarily agree with every word that he spoke there, but I think he's really onto something. And Susan kind of sums it up here, I think, really well. Consciousness is only obtained through a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, period. So well said, yes. Couldn't agree more. So anyway, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for me tonight, unless you guys had anything else for me as far as questions or anything, but it doesn't look like it. So I think we could call it a night. It's a little bit earlier than normal, but I think that's good. It is a holiday weekend after all. It's back to the grind tomorrow, right? Well, we have one more video, so let's watch the Feds radicalize the holidays, and we'll close it up with that for the night. Hope you guys have a blessed week, and we will meet back here again next Sunday night at 10 p.m. Central Time, and we will do it all over again. Love you guys. Hope you guys have a really blessed week, and feel free to stay in touch. Join band, and yeah, and then if you don't want to join band, that's totally fine. If you have any comments, you can leave those on the various video platforms or on my Facebook page if you're on there or wherever. So hope you guys have a really great one, and we'll talk again real soon.